So my name is Mahaley. I work for Ecostack Innovations, and I'm going to be conducting your interview. This interview is just to get insights from you and what you think about the project and the devices that were deployed in your sites. Because we had two sites for Nature Trust. We had the audio moth deployed in Shrub Lajin, and then the AMI in Il Malu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Malo, yes.
Okay, perfect. So those are the two that I'm going to be talking to you about today. But before we start, could you kind of introduce yourself as well?
Okay, so my name is Vincent Attard. As you know, I'm the president of Nature Trust Malta, which is a very old environmental organization since 1962. And today we work on three main areas: ecological site management and restoration, wildlife rescue and rehabilitation, and education for sustainable development in schools and communities.
Okay. And how long have you been the president of Nature Trust?
All right, so that's quite long. I started as a member in 1972, so quite a long time.
Oh, okay.
President, I've been since 1990, so it's been quite a long time. In fact, I'm
Since
trying to find
1990.
somebody to take over now, so it's about time, But there are a lot of people involved, so probably it won't be a big problem.
Probably not. I think Nature Trust has a lot of people that are involved. So, so anyways, do you know much about the audio moth or the AMI that we deployed?
Not really. I just had some basic information about what it was doing. I still wanted to ask you what data was collected just to get an idea. So if you do a bit of a detailed introduction, that would help quite a lot, because I know we were testing it, so we were seeing also if this eventually could help us if we start monitoring such sites, which is very important for us to assess if conservation efforts are indeed being successful or not. So any more information would help. I know it was a research program, so I didn't really ask much at that stage.
Yeah, that's all right. I think we took care of a lot of the deployment and maintenance and everything, so it makes sense. But anyway, so just as an introduction, the AMI is a autonomous light trap that integrates UV and LED lights to kind of attract nocturnal insects so that they go up against the whiteboard, because there's a whiteboard and there's a high resolution camera. And so at night, it attracts those insects, and then we can get some very good images of them. And then we use a AI model to kind of figure out which species is which and detect each from each other. So that's kind of how that one works. And then the one that's a little less active or needs less maintenance is the audio moth. So the audio moth, I actually have it here, is this. And this thing is really simple. We can either use it in passive or active monitoring. So we can walk with it. And then this is the part that records the sound. And it records sounds such as birds, crickets, and bats. But I believe the focus right now is crickets. So that's what we were looking for majorly.
So it does identify bat calls as well?
Say again?
Does it identify which species of bats, for example, or just recording?
Oh, no, it identifies which species. So we use the AI model again to figure out which species is which.
Okay.
So, but it is still in the building process, so still trying to perfect it, of course. So, we did majority of the setup and everything, so I'm gonna skip the part of the interview about that. So, this part is basically for you. So this is the second part of the interview. We just did the introduction. But anyways, so I just wanted to ask, what makes your site, and you can talk about either one here, which makes your site ecologically important in your own words?
Okay, so obviously what we're doing there is ecological restoration. So this is very important for us. It's not only about restoring the plant habitats or the habitats that are there. So if we need to remove invasive alien species, what type of plants we need to add or reintroduce, maybe they disappear from the site. But apart from that, also need, which is very interesting and why we saw this project quite interesting, was what type of biodiversity then starts coming to the site. So it's not just mammals or vertebrates, but also what type of insects come, because after all, insects play an important part in these areas. Bats as well. That's why I ask you about if it identifies. So in a holistic approach, we would be interested in seeing all the impact our projects are having on the whole biodiversity of the area, not just vegetation, but even those animals like insects, which eventually will start repopulating the site. Because you can easily say we're having successful because we've noted this and this, but then you cannot measure if you don't have this data. Example, if for example certain species that had disappeared reappeared again, or what type of, for example, another thing we're noting, especially now with climate change, is invasive alien species. Are these species reappearing also on the site? Um, Example, we've seen the amount of hornets appearing in certain sites, all right? And these have an impact directly on, for example, the local honeybee. What other insects are reappearing that could cause, for example, diseases to pine trees or the rosemaries or the... So all this information is very, very much important for us in a scientific point of view, not only to assess how successful the project, but also what's happening that could cause us, that might need mitigation actions, in the whole process, because you would be thinking, for example, that the project is successful, but in reality, we have noted an increase in invasive species that could be causing a different damage to the site.
Would you say that that's probably the most pressing issue that you have right now at your site?
Yes. I mean, we're noting a lot of, for example, I'll give you an example of one of our sites, because we manage more than one site, of course, where in one particular site, we started introducing the wild rosemary, okay, as shrubs under trees, which was attracting also a lot of pollinators as well because of their flowers. Unfortunately, close to the site we were doing this, somebody imported not indigenous rosemaries to embellish their area. Okay, when these rosemary beetles that came with these rosemaries ate or destroyed all the rosemary that was planted there, obviously the next choice to move was into the site. And in 1 year, without us knowing, because we didn't have this type of equipment, in 1 year, nearly 80% of the rosemaries we had planted over the last 5 years got destroyed. So these are good indicators for us to actually say, look, let's be careful because something new, especially with identifying insects. We do put those insect buckets today where they fall inside in the trees, which help us identify. But with this equipment, I think it would be faster for us with the help of AI saying, look, you've got this insect that showed up at the site. It's not only site specific, but it could also indicate that, look, we've got this new species in the Maltese Islands, which could affect other sites as well.
Okay. And then do you think that this technology could be a good solution for monitoring biodiversity on the nature reserve?
Yes, very much so. I mean, what we've been seeing these last years is that AI is becoming quite important, an important tool. For example, another project we're doing, we're using intelligent feds. You know what feds are? They are related more with fishing. So the feds can actually tell us what type of fish are appearing. We were testing how much depth would be needed to reduce bycatch. And it's also a tool to help also the other stakeholder, in this case, fishermen. So these things help us not only for our own information, because we're adding data faster with the help of the AI, but also we can also be of help to, for example, stakeholders like farmers in the vicinity, all right? Or, for example, agriculture activities that could be causing harm to the honeybee, and other impacts on the whole biodiversity of the area. So the more data we have with the changing environment we have today because of climate change, it could give us real-time information where we can act faster rather than wait for the sending the dead insects to the lab being identified. This is new. This could be a cause of concern. With AI, you can have it on the day, as you know, as you can see.
Yeah, very true. And then, is that the only way? Is there any other ways that you currently collect biodiversity data?
At the moment, yes, because if you see the sites we take, the conservation efforts are quite high. All right.
Mhm.
So we have to, with limited human resources, we have to focus on the actions rather than the research sometimes. So you're fighting a time limited time period where you need to remove invasive alien species, make sure they don't return, plant new species before they retake over the whole area. So this leads us to prioritization of conservation efforts. When we have these prioritization, we sometimes focus more on the efforts in fighting the challenges rather than having time to actually do the research because of, as I said, limited resources. Having these type of data, quite available, it helps us more in our conservation efforts because sometimes you see an example. You said, I think, Malu, right? Malu, we have other challenges. We have how much sediment is increasing. What are the nitrate levels coming in? Sometimes we need to trace those. What impact is it having on the local killifish, which is an endemic subspecies which we're trying to save? And at the same time, we're trying to reduce pollution in the area, monitoring what's coming in, monitoring, for example, what other species are coming in that can be of predators to the killifish. So having these type of AI tools, let's put it this way, helps us more in saying, okay, we need to also add this action this year as a priority. I don't know if I'm clear about this.
Yeah, no, it's clear. And then, is there a specific species that you wish to monitor in the future or near future?
Well, for example, let's go to Malo. In Malo, we're monitoring about how much the sea bass is coming in, sea bream from the outside, because the problem is the site itself has a problem with filtering. So there was underground under the water culverts where fish used to go in and out. What's happening is because of heavy sediment, fish are coming in as young juveniles, but when they grow a bit, they cannot go out. So these become trapped inside and how do you say, high predators to the killifish, which at the same time we're trying to protect.
Yeah.
Other things come in, for example, when you note that certain types of vegetation come in, you don't have, because of, again, this lack of communication between the outside world. Sometimes you have the high level of brackish water increasing on, for example, sweeter water than the salinity of the water, going down. All right. This could impact also the species. So having this information could say, look, we need to tackle immediately this type of activity. One example was, for example, we're noting that eutrophication was high in El Malo. So we had to, because of this close-up of the culverts, we had to introduce aerators in the area to reduce eutrophication, which were having, a negative impact on the other species on site. You see, so this information, in a way, helps us to put the action plan of restoration with priorities. Still, the bigger solutions are found. For example, again, Malo, the problem is to clean these canals, one needs to dig out the road. Now, the road there, I don't know if you know the area, there's one road that crosses between the sea and the salt marsh, all right?
Okay.
Now, this road, apart from being a road, has all the services of communication, electricity, sewage, water, passing from this road to the Marsa Scala town, all right? So it's not just saying dig up the road to change the culverts, because to change these culverts, one would need a national plan to see how to not cut all the electricity to the town, not cut all the water, the sewage, the Wi-Fi and the communication equipment. So at the moment, the national authorities are seeing how to do an action plan to reopen this connection. And it's taking time because of the logistics and challenges it has. So
Yeah, of
at the
course.
moment, we're trying to, how do you say, piecemeal the conservation efforts till the bigger solution is found.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. It sounds
The
like a
same
very
at
big problem,
Shoplagine.
actually.
The same at Shoplagine, for example. And at Shoplagine, we're noting that because how it is, for example, in Shoplagine, over the years, we've lost the wild rabbits, all right,
Yeah.
from the area. Again, we've lost the weasel, all right, which was also another predator to control the rats. Because of this, and because dumping appears a lot outside, the dumping is causing a lot of causing a lot of other pests to come in, like the rats.
Yeah.
And the rat population has increased so much that it's now causing an imbalance on the other reptiles in the area and so forth.
Mhm.
So having a monitor system is ideal.
Yeah, I agree. Are there any other areas around Malta that you think these devices should be utilized?
Oh, yes, definitely. For example, apart from El Malo, we've got another salt marsh balut quite close to El Malo. It's in Marsa Shlock. It's the Natura 2000 site. Again, it gets a lot of problems as well because of the impacts of seeping water or other impacts of development around the area. Another area is Fiddin, where we have, for example, the increase of the crayfish, which is an invasive alien species that's wiping out, for example, the population of the painted frog. It wiped out the freshwater crab from the area. So it's having a lot of negative impacts on the habitat itself. And the problem is, for example, in this case, the crayfish is found in high-level nitrate water. So it's not a case where you can say, look, we've got an overpopulation of crayfish. It's good for eating, it's edible. So you tell the people and they come and help with the eradication because the crayfish found there is now polluted with nitrate. So it's even a public health. So we are faced with having to eradicate this crayfish without involving the public health. We're telling the public, don't touch it because it's a health issue. All right. The same with Bahria Valley, where we're noting, for example, the decline of the freshwater crab. So all these tools help us in all work because if you see it's not just one or two sites, but it's a holistic island problem we're facing today. Nearly all our sites need the data to say, look, we've got an increase in this type of species. Why is this increased? Has something happened to their predators? Has something destroyed the balance on the site? And it helps you understand more what the problems are on site.
Yeah. So in your opinion, if there was a way that these devices could be transferred into like a way that we could use them in aquatic systems or marine systems, that would be beneficial for you.
Yes, aquatic, yes, because we're dealing with aquatic areas. For example, we deal a lot in valley restoration. We have with Ollia, with Hamim, we have in Fiddin, We might be starting with El Bahri and with El Nunziata. We're discussing with the authorities. So again, these aquatic modules would help us very much so. At the same time, we're also running the Chirkawa Marine Park. It's the first marine park that's being managed at the moment. It's left very good results because in the first 4 years, even our main stakeholder, which are diving tourists and the diving community, said they've noted an increase of biodiversity. It's doubled in the 4 years we've been managing the site. But, it's not just seeing an increase, but you need to start monitoring them what species are increasing because you might say, for example, Chirkawa it's a declining area for the seahorse. Now, what's causing the decline of the seahorse? Is it just the diving, or are there some species that might be predating on the seahorse? This will help us more in conservation efforts because when we do a site assessment, we can say, okay, for example, the species needs a conservation effort to increase it. For example, in the Chirkawa, we're looking about breeding the seahorse to increase the population before it disappears, like we did in Il Malo with the killifish, all right? And we're doing it at Balut with the killifish. So having an idea what, getting an estimate of what other species counts are, it would help us, also know what problems the seahorse, for example, in this case, or the killifish will face if we don't control other species that are not controlled.
Yeah. So this monitoring is much needed.
They will provide a lot of help for us and a lot of data.
Well, hopefully in the future, there will be a way that we can make these into an aquatic device. So then are there any aspects of this project that you wish you would have been more involved in, like the deployment or the maintenance or the setup of the MAMBO devices?
To be honest, as I said, we have a human resources problem, so we couldn't get involved as much as we wanted to. It would have been nice if we had somebody who would be getting some training. Not only, I mean, it's not only for just to get to know what data, but for us, it would help to say, look, this device will help us so much so in this project that, it would be worth, for example, budgeting for it for in future projects when we start them. Because, then if you know the equipment, this is an example we found out, for example, when somebody told us, we can do eDNA in the site. So the eDNA will provide us more information than we're actually gaining today. So having knowledge on what this project is, and this is why we are eager then to, when you publish everything, to see the results. Let's say, this is good to have in future conservation projects in these sites, because when you know the tools, then you can say, I will use this tool definitely. It's not just to get information, but to see if the tool would be of help to us. Right? Like we've been involved with this live project on the eFeds. We saw that it would be so much help for us in the marine environment. And even fishermen said, wow, this would be great for us to deploy with you because it's helping me in my daily work as well.
Good. And then, so you were saying, because the next question is what kind of technical support or resources would be most helpful for you and your team. So I'm assuming that if you have like a person on site to kind of train and, so that's basically the answer to that question. Then
at this point in time, we wouldn't want to interfere with your research because, maybe I don't know if your research was intended for a dissertation or not. So it's not stealing any information. It's just to know what tools there are in the market, because as you know, with technology, things seem to be moving fast. So before we had the traditional conservation efforts. Now with AI, you're seeing every day something new is out. And you can say, this new thing will be of help to my projects in 1 to 3 sites. You see, it gives us more visibility.
Yeah, I agree. And then would you be interested, or would your team be interested in any collaborative workshops or knowledge exchange sessions with our people?
Yes, definitely. I think our site managers would be,
Okay,
because
wonderful.
our site managers are a young team of people who have recently graduated and so forth in environmental conservation or environmental sciences. So I think participating and knowing what's out there in the market would increase their knowledge as well. Okay,
Okay,
so they can say, look, there is this tool which would like to deploy in our sites.
gotcha.
And that would, when we have the annual meeting saying, okay, what's the action? We discuss the action plan for the next year. We say, okay, maybe we need to budget for this equipment to be on site next year.
Okay. And then, if you had to choose between which device you wanted to use, which I know you didn't do much of the deployment or the maintenance or anything, but which one would you choose if you had to, the Audio Moth or the AMI?
Well, the first one, not the audio mod was that great thing you showed me, right?
Yes,
That
this.
one, yeah. I think the first one is beautiful. I mean that one is great. Don't get me wrong, they're both very helpful.
Mhm.
But I see the only difference. I see one of them is very good for compiling data,
Yeah,
because the widescreen thing, you have the data coming in all the time of what insects visited during the night the site. All
yeah.
right. The other one is not only giving us information, but it could be also an educational tool for citizen science, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
We try to involve, as I said, one of our priorities is eco schools. So we involve
Yep.
children in education for sustainable development, the biodiversity. So that's a very good tool to get children involved in not introducing only to equipment, but helping them identify species. The idea is to show them, look, there is a variety. So this bat is different from this bat. This bird is different from this bird. So it's really getting children to see the different type of species that the sites and houses and they visit the sites. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the more you get children involved, the more you have more. We've seen one thing over the years we've been doing eco schools, and next year will be 25 years with the program. We've seen that
Wow.
children today are teaching their parents on biodiversity appreciation. So it's the children that's changing the mentality of the grown-ups. All right, because
Hmm.
the children explain, look, this species does this thing, this species helps us in this way. And you see parents changing because their children are actually teaching them.
Yeah.
So the second one would help quite a lot in citizen science.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that it would as well, especially because the pictures are very clear.
Yes, yes. I mean, look what happened in turtle nesting, for example. I know we weren't involved, but in turtle nesting, we started putting these probes, and children coming to read the probes with the sand temperature underneath, showing them how, the temperature changes the eggs to males and females, as a result, looking into the humidity. So children tend to understand the dynamics of the beach, how it varies, how certain species come in the picture, and they get more interested. So when they're on the sand now, they're more aware on what's happening and how their actions can interfere with nature.
Yeah. I will say that it is something since moving here that I've realized is that a lot of the children here are very aware of the environment and the impacts that we have on it. And I think that's great. Some of them know
It's
more than
just
their
one,
parents,
one
actually.
one thing to add is when we started, I mean, it still happens, but you see children today when you ask them, where does the apple grow, for example? Some years back, the reply, what the reply was of these kids?
But
Lidl or the supermarket.
oh no.
So when you show them the tree, you see, a very strange look. I didn't know this. So this is why we are focusing more, and this is why this equipment and citizen science is very, very important. We're an
Mhm.
island that development is destroying the natural areas. So children
Yeah.
need to understand the importance of natural areas. And with this equipment, you can really get them to understand more. I mean, you'd be amazed, compared to my age, the children don't know how to use the mobile and look for things, or the knife, for example. So for them, with AI, it's a toy I got, maybe a metal car when I was younger, and enjoyed it. For them, they enjoy more these type of equipment.
Yeah. Then let's see. What would be your main concerns if you adopted a MAMBO device in the future? I think I already know the answer to this, but go ahead.
The main concerns, the main concerns is really the cost, obviously, because
The cost.
we need to see how much the budget would impact us, because we have to understand that being on a small island, you have limited donors, limited sponsors. So the budget is also our biggest concern. All right. I don't think once we overcome the budgets, then human resources would be a challenge, because then if we present business plan to the donors and show how much this equipment is helping in the study, I'm sure we'll find. It's like we found, for example, support to get the equipment to do the breeding program of the killifish, or to do the breeding program of the freshwater crab. I'm sure we will find, but you have to justify how much this equipment will help you in the conservation efforts. All right. The other thing would be trained staff, because obviously you get personnel who might be afraid of using new equipment. So we need to have plans how we can train them to use this equipment for their advantage as well. I don't know if you had any other thing in mind, which maybe I omitted, but I think these would be our two biggest challenges.
Okay. All right. Well, that is kind of all that I have. Is there? Oh, there's one more. In your opinion, what incentives or support would encourage a wider adoption of these monitoring tools amongst these different sites?
Well, encouragement, I think it would be the amount of data. As an organization, we use a lot of scientific data. I mean, we don't just go for the conservation measures because of emotional needs. One thing I've learned through my years involved in this line of work is, with emotions, you get nowhere. With scientific data, you have more of convincing people that you're doing the right thing, because it's one thing saying, I want to save the lizard, or I want to save the freshwater crab, because it's a charismatic animal. But if you then start putting data and you're saying, look, these are the problems, these are the challenges, these are the costs to address these challenges, people will start to understand that money is important and where their money is going. I mean, one thing I have found out throughout the years is that regular donors come back because they see with data that your efforts are leaving better results. So if you have this equipment showing, look, for example, we've seen the increase of this endangered insect example. I'm just using a crude example. And the decline of this insect, which was causing the decline, to the other insects. Then we saw that in year one, there was this percentage decline. Year two, this percentage. We've seen that this had tend to increase. People tend to become more, oh, I see that, I know you know what you're doing. All right, you're doing it in a scientific way. Then I'm going to help you, rather than saying, yes, I think we are noticing a good result in conservation efforts. Donors who are businessmen would say, yes, but how much are you seeing? What's the comparison from year one to year four? And we value this a lot. Now, these equipment can give us that data, and let's say, when we started, the picture was this way. Today, year five, the picture is this way. So, it's a measurable target because you have the data. It is very, very important.
Okay. All right. Well, that is all that I have for you. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the devices, or just about the project, or anything?
I think, as you saw, although we were very much eager to have this project. I know I do apologize that we didn't have time because of our limited resources, but
we totally understand that.
but we do encourage this because we know that, whatever comes in any type of new research coming in could be a tool for us to use in future projects. Because,
Mhm.
as I said, in the end, we work in a scientific way, and, getting to know, one thing we value a lot is what's in the market that would help us improve what we're doing. And this is
Yeah.
one of them. All right.
All right. All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I super appreciate you making the time for this. And yeah, that was very useful. So thank you very much.